Okay, let the record show all selectmen are present. Consent agenda, warrants number 39 dated 3/9/2020, number 41 dated 3/23/2020, number 42 dated 3/23/2020, payroll register number 10 3/5/2020, number 11 3/12/2020, number 12 3/19/2020, number 13 3/26/20, and number 14 4/2/2020.
Move to accept.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the warrants and payroll registers as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Under the consent agenda, CMP Central Main Power pole placement request on Blackwell Hill Road. And we have that.
Thank you. So they're putting 2 poles on Blackwell Hill. It's kind of routine. Road commissioner's been out there to check it out, and he says there's nothing that he's concerned with on it.
Okay, looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the placement of poles on Blackwell Hill. Any questions? Seeing none, Mr. Elias.
Now, are these replacement poles, or are they new poles?
I think one's a replacement pole, and I believe one is one of those extra poles that they put behind a pole to hook the wire to keep it in place.
Okay.
Stabilize the pole.
Yeah.
One is a guide wire, and another is another pole because the span between the 2 poles are too long.
Yep.
So they need to shorten the distance up.
So if you didn't catch that, one's for a guide wire, and the other one is to shorten the distance between the other 2 poles.
And you want to tell the road commissioner to speak up a little bit?
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I thought I'd put this in
Manager.
the consent agenda. This is a form that needs to be motioned and signed by the selectmen. It's a consent form that we will apply for a safety program through MMA's Workman's Comp. And if we really do what we're already doing and we enter into this program, we will get a discount up to 7.5% on our Workman's Comp.
Okay.
What kind of safety program?
So we have regular safety meetings, we have a safety committee, we do safety trainings. MMA is going to reward the towns that are already doing those things and step up a little bit more. And so it's something that we can have to apply for once, and then we can renew it every year.
Okay.
All right, so we're looking for a motion and a second for the MMA Workers' Compensation Safety Incentive Program.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second, that we approve the MMA Workers' Compensation Safety Incentive Program. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. All right, acceptance of the meeting minutes from March 9th, 2020.
Move to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the meeting minutes of March 9th, 2020. You got somebody buzzing there, Tim.
Yeah.
Somebody's trying to call in.
That's your phone.
That's me.
Mr. Indiana.
Oh, the junior high's calling. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Old business, Mr. Moody?
None for me,
Mr.
sir.
Elias?
None.
Mr. Savage? None for me. None for me. Items of communication, Mr. Town Manager.
Okay, a couple things to pass along to you, just some normal business. This coming Monday, the 20th, the town office will be closed for Patriots Day. It's a typical observance of that New England holiday. That means that no one will be there.
So you're going to open up the close?
Jeff has been looking at spring cleanup, and he would like to start that spring cleanup on the Western Avenue side of town Tuesday, the 21st. So next Tuesday, spring cleanup will start, and I believe that will continue, and they'll kind of move at their typical pace of letting people get stuff out to the sidewalks. just remind folks, if anybody asks you, don't bag anything, leave it all loose so they can pick it up.
And it's just leaves and branches and tree branches and stuff
Yeah.
like that, not
Yeah.
washing machines and beds and.
Right. No firewood.
Right.
Are you gonna put something on a sign about that?
Yes, we just kind of finalized that today, so I'll get it up there tomorrow.
That's a good idea, that way people get something for their tax dollars, right?
So,
Schools.
as we had been talking prior to the meeting, and it's been out in the newspapers that the governor has directed that the state elections move from June the 9th to July the 14th. Kathy is in the process of looking into all the details around that. Nomination papers have been turned back in. Kathy collected all of those by our original deadline, which was last Friday. So all those papers are in. And I don't think we need to take any action. The board doesn't need to take any action right now, but let Kathy kind of decipher all the rules and regs, and then she'll make a recommendation as to what to do with town meeting. Most likely, it would make sense that we've always had the town meeting the day before the state and local elections, so that's likely that that will follow course, but we'll probably have time to act on that at an upcoming meeting. Most of the public meetings that I've been watching and been a part of have gone fairly well through this method. The planning board had a meeting with 25 attendees 2 weeks ago. They'll have another meeting and a public hearing tomorrow night. We meet the public hearing criteria by simply putting on our agendas the link that people can attend the meetings via Zoom and the phone number that they can call in. Due to the changes in state emergency legislation, that allows us to meet the criteria for freedom of access, freedom of information, and so on. Just a heads up about assessing. The next assessors meeting is scheduled for 2 weeks, so that will be April the 27th. Shirley has been working at home, getting a lot of stuff cleaned up off her desk. She'll probably have a couple small abatements to get cleared up. Many of you, we individually talked over the last month about the potential to make an abatement towards a piece of property that Scouting and Savings is attempting to sell. So we'll probably revisit that at the assessors meeting. And I'll give you updates as to Eagle Creek and Madison paper. There really isn't a whole lot to update. Eagle Creek has missed their deadline for filing an appeal, so they've lost the opportunity to appeal the 19 taxes. Madison paper, that's all before a judge, and the judge is not working at this time. I sent out an email today, and I wanted to make it a little bit more public so people would know that Sheriff Lancaster reported to me that at least 4 catalytic converters were stolen off of vehicles in Madison over the last week, and that's following a trend that's been going around statewide. Apparently some of the metals in the catalytic converters are bringing a pretty good price on the market these days. So we've moved from copper pipes in old abandoned houses now to sliding underneath vehicles and taking out the catalytic converter. So it's just the public needs to be aware that that sort of thing is going on. I wanted to bring this to you in items of communication and see if you wanted to pursue it with a item on an agenda at a later meeting. We did receive a petition from 33 people on East Madison Road and Bagley Road. I shared this with you via email. These individuals put their name down on a petition to say that there's excessive noise coming from one of the addresses nearby. It's due to folks that enjoy shooting on their own property. The sheriff has been contacted. He's been out there. He has determined that this person is within their rights to do this, and there's nothing illegal because they're not within 300 feet of a building. The folks that wrote this petition are claiming that they're losing their quality of life out there because it's so excessive and it's so loud and it's so noisy. So in the petition, they asked the town to take action. The only thing a town can do is to create an ordinance. Well, we ran this by a couple of lawyers at Maine Municipal and at Ken Lexier's office, and both came back with the same response, that there's really no way a town can regulate this type of activity. So I tried to reach out to the property owner, I sent him a letter. I did hear back from a friend of the property owner, not directly that person. They called me and we went back and forth. He wanted to know if he could see the names on the petition. And I paused for a little bit because it is public information. Once people sign a petition, that's, you know. Now, the way that, again, just so everybody's on the same page about petitions, we don't give anybody advice about how to sign a petition. If somebody calls the town clerk and says, I want to start a petition, the town clerk tells them, you can start a petition, but I can't tell you how to do it. So what they gave us was their name, their address, and their phone numbers. Now, I'm inclined, if this individual wants to see this petition, to black out the phone numbers and just give them the name and the property address. And I didn't know if there was anything, and Kathy, you can weigh in on this if you know any specific rules about protection of petitions.
Well, I don't know, but once it gets turned into the selectmen, it becomes public. I haven't seen the petition, so I haven't verified the signatures for Madison resident, which I assume.
Can you see that?
would be.
I'm gonna hold that up for you.
Yep,
I'm joking.
yep.
I've kind of been sitting on this, but I certainly can give it to you, and you can verify it.
Right, but usually once it gets turned into the selectmen, I mean, it's public knowledge. I wouldn't have, if I was gonna sign a petition, and I didn't want I don't know if the public, you know, people would know this, but I wouldn't put my phone number down.
Right.
Because I would know that that was public.
Right.
Mr. Moody?
I don't think you can black out anything.
Nope.
If they hand you a petition, whatever's on that, once they hand it in, it becomes public record. I don't think we have any right to block out any portion of it, yeah.
Well, I think, before we meet again on it, I think we need to get some clarification on what you can do with that and who you can give it to. So I think we need to have that clarified to make sure that we can give that information out to people. I would think. Does everybody agree with that? I mean, I don't think we know enough about it. Mr. Elias?
Well, I mean, we've had petitions in here before to do stuff in the past. And if they sign their name and phone number and address and all that, and they put it on there, there's nothing to find out. I agree with Mr. Moody. I said, you can't black anything out. I mean, this ain't the government where you make secret stuff and black stuff
It
out.
is.
I mean, if I'm gonna sign that petition, I don't care if anybody knows. Whether I wanna look at that, or if the guy next door wants to look at it.
Right, the only thing I'm not saying black anything out. I don't think you should black anything out. What I'm saying is that if somebody's asking, if a person other than the property owner is asking for that petition, can we give it to them? I think that's the question that's gotta be asked of our MMA people. Yeah, Mr. Woody?
Yeah, first of all, Al, it becomes public record.
Yeah.
So that kind of loosens everything up.
Yeah.
Second thing I wanted to ask is, has anybody responded to this complaint area to see if they can curb their noise or their activity down to
They won't talk,
a
they
little
won't
bit
talk
of
to
a
him.
minimum?
They will not talk to Tim.
So
okay.
apparently, one of the reasons that so many people signed this is that there's a growing frustration and not being able to communicate or not being able to get access to the people that own the property where the shooting goes. And I sent a letter directly to that person, that's the property owner, and I didn't get a response from them. I got a friend that called me.
Friend of his.
On their behalf, a friend of this individual called me back.
It sounds like somebody's doing something just to agitate some people.
Yeah. So most of the attorneys that I've spoken with about this have said, this really isn't a municipal issue, this is a civil issue. And if they really want to turn up the heat, then they can hire a lawyer and pursue it that way.
Anything out of it.
So,
Mr. Duchamp?
I would agree that we don't want to black out anything, but I would also be cautious about giving it to somebody for somebody else. If the person to which the petition is directed wants to come in and get a copy of it, then I don't think you can not give him a copy. But when you do this third-party business, I think you're really running into a risk of exposing something to someone who doesn't have any kind of interest in that, other than he's a friend of.
Right.
So I think if the person to which the petition is addressed, in terms of he's the one that they got a problem with, if he wants to come in and get a copy of the petition, then he can come in and get a copy of the petition, in my view, completely unredacted, but the friend can't. Any more than a friend of yours can call me and say, does Tim have accounts with you and how much money is in his account? Sorry, I'm not gonna tell you he's got accounts with me, or if he does or doesn't. I just think you gotta be real careful.
Mr. Elias?
I was just gonna say, do you know how many rounds of ammunition I've heard with the rifle range over there across the river?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just like it's right in my backyard every time they're over there shooting. And that goes for everybody down this neighborhood.
Right.
Well,
So I mean,
you also have Williams up on Williams Farm, I mean, when you
Yeah.
have the veterans in there, I mean, it feels like you're right there
Right.
in my neighborhood.
right, same thing without back here. It's
Close
just-
that down pretty much.
Yeah, but I mean, when he was doing it, it was
Right.
pretty rough.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I've got the direction I need,
Okay.
and that's all I have for
Okay.
today.
New business, let's open the public hearing to take comment on discontinuance of a portion of Chamberlain Court off Lower Mills Road, East Madison. Public hearing is open.
So,
Any public?
actually, I do have a couple of comments. One's in your packet. It's the letter that's signed by Nicholas Mukai, and he is the owner of the property. In your packets, you should have the map that has the, kind of the outline.
Did we do this already?
Yeah.
We talked about it as communication items, but tonight we're actually gonna, see if the board would actually
Yeah.
issue an order of discontinuance. So this letter from Mr. Mukai is new information. So he is the owner now of lots 13, 14, and 15. And he is asking that the town discontinue Chamberlain Court from the point where it enters into his property. That's indicated by the darker line that goes up and around the loop. The other thing that he clarified is he's not looking for any claims for damages, he's not looking for any money out of this. And so we have his request. The only other property owner that is directly impacted is Mrs. Dawes, that lives right there, and her driveway comes off of the first 140 feet of Chamberlain Court. So the recommendation is to leave that 140 feet of Chamberlain Court the same. That way she has access to her driveway. There's also a catch basin on the corner there of Chamberlain and Lower Mills Road, and she wanted to make sure the town will continue to maintain that, which they will. I did speak with her and her daughter over the phone, because I sent them a notice. Originally, we were going to take this up on March 27th or so. And so I had sent her a notice, and she and her daughter called back, and they had no concerns with it. They were completely understanding as to what was going to take place there.
All right. The road commissioner, is he all set with that?
This fits what you were looking for, right, Jeff?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Mr. Elias?
Is this something we need to take to town meeting after we vote to?
Yes.
I thought so.
In your packet there is a 2-page order of discontinuance. And I stretched it to 2 pages so that the signature page would actually have something on the top of it. So,
Very good.
Where is that? Is it in here?
should say order of road discontinuance
Oh, right, yeah.
on top.
It's in your packet.
So you'll update the date?
Oh, yeah, I got
Once we
it.
get it?
I will, I'll update that top date.
Okay.
But the signature page I updated today, so it should have the right.
All right, any more comment on the order of discontinuance? Any more comments? Any more comments? All right, well, the public hearing will be closed. And we'll look for a motion to take the town meeting and order of road discontinuance for Chamberlain Court.
The other end of Chamberlain Court. I guess it's the north side,
As
right?
described in the.
Okay, I'll make that motion. We're not discontinuing the whole street. everything but 100 and what'd you say feet?
So the way the order reads is, the Madison Select Board orders a portion of Chamberlain Court discontinued beginning at a point 140 feet from the edge of the town right away on
I
Lower
think you
Mills.
gotta put.
There's my motion.
In this order,
What's that?
in this order, you gotta put 140 feet. You got 140
Yep.
from.
Yeah.
Like the second line.
Gotcha.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to send to town meeting the order of road discontinuance for Chamberlain Court as recorded in the order of discontinuance. Any questions? Mr. Savage?
Is there any legal fees that the town could be responsible for on like updating deeds for these properties or no?
The deeds won't, updating the deeds won't cost anything. We can give the information to the landowners and they can go to the registry if they want to. We did pay about $140 to Ken Lexier to write this up for us for the town report.
All right, seeing no other questions, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
While I've got you here, I changed that signature page. It's different than the one that's in your packet. The one that's in your packet refers to the town meeting on June 8th or June 9th. This just says to be taken to the 2020 annual town meeting.
All right, number 2, discuss tax acquired properties.
Okay. In your packets, you should have a list of 4 properties at this time, which if I recall, we were up to about 12 properties at the February deadline when they fell into foreclosure. So we've seen quite a few come in. In fact, last week 2 folks came in and paid off their taxes. So in the order that you've got them there, the one on the first one, account 142 up there on Lower Mills Road, that family is making a concerted effort. They made one payment of $200. They're going to make another payment of $200 at the first of each month, and hopefully my interaction with them has been good. It's been positive, so I hope that they'll continue to make a $200 payment for the next year. And if they do that for the next year, they'll be all caught up. And I'm going to try to continue to stay on them. We seem to have a pretty good rapport with that location. I want to skip down to account number 60. This is 14 acres on Jones Street beyond where the MEW substation is. We haven't heard anything back from this family. Relatives of the original owner live in Belfast. They've signed our certified mails, so we know that they're getting them, but they haven't responded in any way to try to redeem the property. So what I might recommend on that is I'll reach out to them again, but we could just have the assessor's agent put that into the town's name and just kind of hold that property for a while. From those people I've talked to that know it fairly well, it's kind of a wet, swampy piece of property that may not be of interest to most anybody. And there's only 3 years back taxes, only $630 total. So it may be something we wipe clean and just hold on to and see what we want to do with in the future, unless anybody's got some great ideas. So that leaves us with that will leave us with 2 properties that we'll probably have to take some action on. And if you recall, the property at 54 Weston Avenue, account number 1075. This is Anthony Schuster's former law office. That has 3 apartments in it, and I believe they're actually using the law office as a 4th apartment. So I believe all the apartments are occupied. Now there is a person that Anthony deeded the property to before he passed away, and they put it in the name of D7 Exteriors. So that person is living there, and she's trying to collect the rent from the other people. As you are aware, there's about a total of $12,000 in back taxes there. There's over $2,000 in sanitary district, and there's a lien that is matured for the sanitary district, so they're second in line for the property. And there's about $1,900 from MEW. that's owed just on that property. So back before we closed down the town office, we sent them notice. Brianne Emery is the name of the person on the tax bill. We sent her notice, and we also sent the executor of Anthony Schuster's estate. We sent her the same letter saying, you have until the 25th of April, maybe it's the 24th,
24th.
because it's Friday the 24th, right? To pay off all the back taxes, all the sanitary, and all the MEW back payments. And if that's not received by 4 o'clock on Friday the 24th, then the town will put the property up for sale and move forward in that direction. We just happened to be cleaning out some old documents at the town office, and I found one from 1993 signed by Rick Mishu that did exactly the same thing, not with this property, but with another property, saying basically the selectmen's policy gives you the opportunity to pay all the back taxes. If not, it'll be put up for sale. It'll be advertised for sale and sold to the highest bidder. So this is not an unusual policy, it's just something that the town meeting warrant gives you as the selectmen a broad range, because the article actually says it gives the selectmen the authority to dispose of tax acquired or property in the way that they deem to be in the best interest of the town. So there's not a specific, that's why you can do things a little bit differently. That's why you can take payments from people. That's why you can say, no, I'm not gonna take payments from people, and we're gonna put it up for sale. So my question for you is, in light of our situation with our virus and all of this stuff, do we continue this course with 54 Weston Avenue?
What do we think? Shall I?
That place does not probably have a mortgage.
No, and if you indulge me for a second, that property backs right up to 1, 3, and 5 Bean Street.
Right.
And Skowhegan Savings had an interest in those 2 Bean Street properties. So they paid the taxes on that. There was no mortgage or any interest from the banks in 54 Weston Avenue. So that's why it fell into foreclosure. I remember Anthony Schuster telling me years ago, the reason he bought the Bean Street properties is there's a property line dispute between his property on Weston Avenue and those Bean Street properties. So I've been in communication with Skowhegan Savings and whatever they plan to do with those properties, if and when they plan to put them up on the market to sell. One of us probably ought to have a survey, or maybe the town and the bank pay for a survey and split the costs so that there's a clear delineation of where one property ends and the other one begins.
So there's somebody living in the Bean Street, one
And,
of the
and
corner.
I believe Scout Savings is collecting rent.
Yeah. Sid Mooney.
Tim, how long has the back taxes been going on?
$12,000.
For
3 years anyway.
For Mr. Schuster, he was always he paid his taxes every year, but he didn't pay it when you normally pay your taxes. He always paid the day before foreclosure. So, you know, with him out of the picture, that's why all of his properties fell into either bank foreclosure or tax foreclosure.
Mr. Elias.
I guess my point would be, if that house was given to me and I have 3 or 4 rents in it, and I have no mortgage, why couldn't I get a home equity loan or some sort of thing like that to pay off this little amount of money?
And as far as I know, they're looking at their options, they're working on it, but they may not be as creditworthy as you know.
Well, I mean, I think we have to move forward. I mean, I think we have to move forward on this. Even, we're not gonna put anybody out of a rent. So it's not like we're gonna kick people out of the house. That isn't gonna, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Right.
If we can sell the house without
Right.
evicting anybody.
Right, right. I do think though, I mean, I don't know a lot about it, but I do think that we should make some contact with Representative Farron and see if he can change some of these rules and giving people property and without paying their back taxes.
Yeah, that's a good point, because since Anthony Schuster actually deeded the property over to Embry without any of the taxes being paid. And we actually had the same thing go on out on Lakewood Road. You remember Bob Mallard's old property where he had the fly fishing place?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that went from Mallard to Obert, and then from Obert to Brandon Crocker. And I remember when it went from Obert to Crocker, Crocker called and I said, you gotta pay all these back taxes. He goes, oh, yeah, yeah. Well, nobody's paid any of the back taxes on it. They paid it off right before foreclosure, but there's still 2 years' worth of taxes standing out there. So I think you're right. I think there is some sort of loophole. If you kind of do your own paperwork, you can kind of do it without.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to check into that. I mean, it seems though when somebody buys something, that this debt that goes along with it is, I mean, almost insurmountable. I mean, you're $16,000 in debt before you even start. I mean, I do kind of agree with George. Maybe you could get some sort of home equity loan to pay that off, but I think the tax has gotta be zero if you buy something.
Right.
Okay,
How
Mr.
long has D7 owned this building? This D7 Exteriors?
They paid the 16 taxes. So I think she acquired it right before those went into foreclosure. So I'd say probably about 14 months they've owned it.
And they paid none since then?
No, they paid it to make sure it didn't go into foreclosure, but then they missed this year's.
I agree with the chairman, let's move forward to this.
So when the time comes, if and when, at the next board meeting, we determine that they didn't pay the taxes, we're gonna move forward with selling it. One thing that we run into before, and I don't know enough about it to try to clarify this. If we're gonna sell it through a realtor, or if we're going to try to sell it at a more market range price, what happens when that person goes to get a loan or goes to get a clear title? Because it's only gonna be a quitclaim deed. That doesn't, now, I think that limits the ability for someone to borrow money to buy it, right?
It limits the person's ability to borrow money on a mortgage that will likely be sold on the secondary market. Secondary market does not like quitclaim deeds, they want warranty deeds.
Right.
Conversely, your local community bank will oftentimes understand the ramifications behind it and accept a quitclaim deed for a decent borrower.
Okay, so we'll move forward on that one. And if there's no further questions on 54 Weston Avenue, I'd like to go to Whittier Farm Road.
I would just like to ask something about Jack. The last statement you said, that is if, say for example, I wanted that I'm gonna get that loan from the bank because they know I'm gonna pay the taxes and the sewer and the water, correct? You're not just gonna give that to somebody.
No, the process would be the town, which is currently the entity that owns the bank, is gonna give a quitclaim deed. But prior to them issuing the quitclaim deed, all of these things have to be paid.
Right.
So at that point, the town can in good faith say, everything that we know about that's happened while we've owned this property is taken care of. And we can feel good that everything that we know about that's happened while they've taken care of the property has been good. We're going to, as an institution, we're going to ask for a 40-year title search, which is gonna go back 40 years. But the town wouldn't necessarily be on the hook for anything that was prior to their ownership by virtue of this foreclosure notice.
Oh, you mean like
So
an
the
old...
quitclaim deed, all the quitclaim deed does
Yeah.
is the quitclaim deed says, I'm taking care of everything that happened to this property while I owned it. Anything that happened prior to,
Right.
I'm not responsible for. Now, in this case, the town could, for all intents and purposes, could say, we're not responsible for sanitary, we're not responsible for MEW, we're not responsible, but we do that just as a part of, because we're all,
Right.
they're all quasi-governmental
Taxpayers' money.
kind of thing. So, but I think that, to get it financed on the secondary market, would be a real challenge.
Yeah.
Because I know that they have issues. Maine Housing wouldn't do it. In the first place, Maine Housing probably would have trouble with it because it's a multifamily, but for FHA or rural housing or any of those, they're gonna have trouble with that quitclaim deed. I've seen them before, so I would just caution you. I'm not voting on this if if you have a vote on it, I'm abstaining from this. But I would caution you, you've given this person until the 24th. I don't know if you plan to be in the office on the 24th or whatever, but I would suggest that on the 24th, there be a presence there so that if she could call, somebody could call and say, hey, I know today's the last day, da-da-da-da, I'm coming in, I've got all the money in a bag and all the rest of that stuff, but I would make sure that COVID-19 doesn't put us in a problem with, well, you weren't there, so I couldn't pay.
Right.
So, and I'm also, we just want to clarify, the board isn't interested in taking payments on this. It's really all or nothing. That's what the letter said. Basically, all of these things have to be paid. Okay.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing, just so we're clear here, I think I know of 2 or 3 local developers, people that are picking up lots of properties and converting them into rentals, that would probably be interested in this property for $30,000. But if I'm understanding this, if we would go this direction, you would anticipate that we would put it on the market for a closer to market value. The tax assessment on it's about $170,000. So I just wanted to clear, once it goes on the market, we're going to have a lot of people that are sniffing around trying to buy it at what they feel to be a foreclosure price. So.
Well, if we're gonna do it that way, then we should go to auction with it. I mean, I think if we're gonna do it.
I think at auction, you're gonna get your 30,000 top.
Yeah.
I don't think, nobody's gonna go to auction to pay
So
75.
if we're going to a real estate agent, then I think we need to get the value of the building.
Okay.
Is that what we're gonna do, real estate? Are we in the real estate business?
Well, we've tried this before with limited results, and one of the things we ran into was the quitclaim deed issue. Auction is a little clearer and cleaner, but you don't get the higher end dollar. If you try to market it with a realtor, then you have people looking at it, you're on the higher end of the market. But you're right, it does put the town in that position of trying to broker like a real estate.
Mr. Moody?
But we don't want to hang on to this property to begin with. And I don't think we're going to get top dollar for it, number 2. And if we can get rid of this property and somebody else owns it that's going to pay taxes, we're ahead of the game already.
Sign, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you, but sign a 90-day listing contract. The 90-day, the property market is so hot right now that you list your house today, it's under contract tomorrow. It makes no sense to take a property like this, it's worth $170,000 in a prime location in town and sell it for $30,000. I don't think we're in our capacity as looking out for the taxpayer dollar. I don't think we're doing that if we just auction that off, knowing that the market is such that it would bring a bigger dollar. Now, I don't necessarily think you're gonna get 170 for it, but I think you put it out there to a realtor and say, hey guys, you got 90 days to sell the damn thing.
Yeah, and I wasn't intent to go that, to give the impression I was wanting to go that way.
Yeah.
I was just saying that the quicker that we can get rid of this
Yeah.
at a reasonable price, the quicker that we're gonna get our money back, and the quicker that the taxes are gonna come back behind it.
Right, right.
Yeah, no, I don't wanna give it away, but.
So I think that we need to let this April 24th date come. And I think on the 27th, we can talk about that here and how we're gonna proceed with that. Hopefully, all the money comes in and it's up to date and this person owns it.
And we won't have to worry about it.
We won't have to
Right.
worry about it. That's the best scenario.
Right.
But at least you have a plan.
We have a
to go
plan
forward.
moving forward.
So what I'd like to discuss now is perhaps a plan moving forward for 144 Whittier Farm Road. I gave you an extra handout that has pictures of it on one side and an email I received from a lady named Mary Louise. She is the representative for Gertrude Ministries. Gertrude Ministries has an office in Winslow, and they have this property on the lake that was part of their ministry for years. It's kind of, well, it is public knowledge that they have always been behind on their taxes, but only in the last 2 years have they let it fall into foreclosure. They let it fall into foreclosure, and they paid the 16 taxes in May last year. They've let it fall into foreclosure, and as you can read in the email, she believes that it's very complicated, it's very hard to go into a bank right now because of the COVID-19 situation. Last year, she explained to me that this ministry has a lot of their money in foreign assets, and so it's hard to get those foreign assets turned into U.S. currency, and I give her the benefit of the doubt. But at the end of the day, they've known for the last 20 years that the taxes are due on it, and they've been late for the last 20 years. I did trudge through the mud last week before it snowed to get some pictures. I've never been out there to see where it actually is. It's actually a fairly decent old building, pretty close to the water, surrounded by some very nice properties out there on Whittier Farm Road. So my question to the board is, do I proceed in a similar manner where we give the owners, the former owners, the opportunity to pay all the back taxes by a certain date? If not, then we put this on the market as well.
I agree with that. I think that we gotta move, we did this
I agree.
we did the same thing last year. I mean, we
Yeah,
got
we
the whole
were-
story.
Every year we go through
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I think we need to move.
I agree. I'm with you on that one.
And so I just want to be clear, she made an offer in her email to make a payment, but what you're leading me is to require her to pay it all back in full and not accept payments.
Give her till,
Yeah.
give her 30 days from today, or
Yep.
whatever day you can send.
Yep.
30 days to May 15th, whatever. If it's not 100% paid in full, then it's ours.
Right.
And we'll move forward. We'll take action at
I think we
that.
have to.
I think that's what we do. You got the template of the letter right here. I'd use the same thing and make sure it goes certified.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions on that? All right, number 3, review municipal budget advisory board recommendations.
So in your packets, you have the third quarter numbers. And so you have the column there, the first column is the budget, the second column is what's spent so far. We should be right around that 75% range. And you can see the overall, the total budget's running about 72%, so we're in where we should be. The last column, the darker column all the way over to the right, that is the proposed budget. And most of you saw via email that that the advisory board had...
Most of us saw the object.
That the advisory board had reviewed each of the specific articles for the proposed budget. And just to clarify, the town's ordinance for the advisory board does not require that they meet publicly. It only requires that they make recommendations to town meeting. That's why on the town meeting warrant, it says Selectmen recommend, advisory board recommends. So we felt in the current situation that we could conduct business via email. And so that's what they did on everything except capital. So Articles 6 through 14, those numbers are all agreed upon by 13 out of the 15 members of the advisory board that got back to me, saying those numbers they would recommend for those articles to take to town meeting.
And those people did not vote no, they just didn't get back to you.
Right, only 2 people did not get back out of the 15, that's right.
Probably those two didn't have email like me, right?
No, they do.
So this is the advisory board, this dark column.
Right,
So they approved 604, 669, 545, blah, blah, blah.
correct, yeah. So those are the approved amounts. We started down the road of discussing capital with the advisory board, and I did that intentionally separately because I wanted to make sure that we had everything nailed down in the non-capital, and I knew that it was going to be a much different discussion on capital. And I knew in the back of my mind that the governor may change the day and we may get a little bit of a reprieve before we have to make a decision to get everything ready for town meeting. So That being said, I believe the governor's gonna go through with moving to July. That gives us another 30 days to discuss things. And so I'm not asking the advisory board to make a recommendation on capital at this time. And I don't know if the board wants to discuss it now or maybe wait and schedule another meeting where perhaps we don't have the same restrictions that we do now, and allow the department heads like Donnie and Jeff and Julie to discuss with the board the capital, because I know each one of them has specific requests.
So if we're looking for July 13th town meeting, we're looking to have the budget done and the capital done by June 13th?
I would say at least, what's the second Monday in June? Well, June 9th.
June 9th.
Right. So I would say June 9th is the day it all needs to be done,
Okay.
because it needs to go to the printers that week. The state requires a town report be out 30 days prior to town meeting. So if town meeting is the 13th of July, then 13th or 14th of June, we need to have the report back. So I would say Monday the 9th is the absolute latest. I would love to do it by mid-May, but again, we don't know what the restraints on meeting are going to be in May. We have a pretty good idea that the way we're meeting now, we're gonna meet the same way in 2 weeks. I don't know what that means in 4 weeks or 6 weeks.
Wait, go ahead, Susha.
I think that waiting until June 9th is, if you're gonna have, I mean, that's putting a whole lot of pressure on a printer to get,
Right.
you know, what do we print, 150, 200 books from the
Oh,
9th to the 13th?
we print 400 books. They can usually turn it around in a week, but so maybe if we looked at backing that up to June 1st, you're gonna run into Memorial Day weekends. I don't know if anybody's gonna go anywhere.
So I think we need to be done, we need to have our assent on the budget to go into the town report no later than June 1st, so that he can get that done.
Okay.
I
Thank
just
you.
don't think it makes, we got plenty of time to deal with it.
Mhm.
And I get that we've got some kind of odd circumstances, but that doesn't necessarily preclude that we couldn't have a discussion about capital with the various department heads
Yeah.
and get this done so that you guys can do your work without, you know, having you right up against it. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense to put that kind of pressure in the current environment. Everything takes longer. Everything I do takes longer every day because you can't get to here, or you can't do this, or you gotta go around Robin Hood's Bond to get here.
Right.
So, I mean, the only thing we're gonna have to figure out, I mean, if things aren't, if the rules don't ease up, we're gonna have to figure out how to get the advisory board into a room.
At least 8 of them, yes.
At least 8 of them, and not gonna exclude somebody,
Well, no, I know.
so that's gonna be tough to do. Still eyes?
Yeah, I agree with Jack. Why can't we go the way we're going? The only thing we haven't met with the advisory board on, or for anybody, is the capital, right?
Correct. That's the only thing they haven't given.
They've agreed on the budget,
They have.
so that's done,
Yeah.
basically. So,
Now, have we given our recommendation?
It's.
no, but I mean, what I'm getting at is, why can't we have in this room 3 more people, right, department heads?
Right.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
So we can do the capital here, they can watch on TV at home, and can't they give us their recommendation? And ask questions at that time?
Yeah, I think that's easy.
And we can get it all done, instead of messing around till July, or June. And I agree with Jack, I mean, a printer and all that kind of thing, yeah. Let's get it done.
Yeah,
Yes, Jeff?
why couldn't we have the meeting up to the junior high in the auditorium, just everybody 2 seats apart, 3 seats apart?
Can't.
Damn.
School shut
You
down.
can only have 10 people in a room.
Right, 10 people in the room, right.
Oh, that's right.
Even a room the size of the auditorium?
Yeah, no, you can't have more, public meetings can't be more than 10 people.
So, let me ask our school board member. So there's a school board meeting tomorrow night, and department heads are watching from home, but the board is meeting in the cafeteria, right?
Yes.
So that'll be 7, 8, 9, okay.
Yeah, the 18 is gonna Zoom, and then we're all gonna sit there 6 feet apart, I suppose. With Floyd will be there too.
So that's only gonna be 8 people.
Well, Floyd's gonna be there, it's gonna
Well,
be,
they need Floyd to run the, they
Right.
need Floyd to run the computer.
right, it'll be 9.
9 people. so
If
that's
Holly's
still-
there, there's 10 people, so, because they're discussing the budget, so.
An idea, I just jumped through a similar hoop in Oakland, and I used a building like this, and we had 9 people here, and across the hall, we used Zoom, and we did 9 over there. And we met what the governors put in place for no more than 10 people.
Yeah, you could do that.
And we did, they just had the option to speak into the laptop, we had a microphone attached to it.
Right.
So if the chairman wanted to talk, or Mr. Moody wanted to talk, we just moved the microphone back and forth.
Yeah,
And they
we
were
could
the
do-
next building, next room over. Worked pretty well. It's, again, it's all new, but it did work.
But we got 2 rooms here, we could
Right,
do it that way.
right.
And if someone had to witness a vote, so to speak, I mean, you as a town manager, go over and see how the planning board voted, and come right back here and do the same thing.
So, do you want to try to have this meeting on May 11th? So you've got the 27th, which would be your next meeting, the following meeting after that
That'll
would be
give us
May
a month,
11th.
that would give us a month. I mean.
That would give us a
things
month to
might-
try to coordinate how to do this.
Things might change
Right.
a little bit.
Okay,
Well, the other thing is that the economics of what we're doing might change too,
right.
you know. In 30 days, budget's gonna look a whole lot different. The other question is, do you have guidance from Maine Municipal on how we're gonna operate from July 1st to July
That's coming, I think.
14th?
I believe that's coming, but I believe you'll have a retroactive article in your town meeting warrant.
Because you can't spend a dime
Well,
after June 30th.
part of the legislation that was passed, and I was gonna send that around today, the link. Part of the legislation that was passed automatically allows spending up to last year's budget into the new fiscal year.
Oh, so that was
Right.
part of the executive order?
Yes.
Okay.
So because you have towns that, Fairfield, for example, has their town meeting in May, early
Yeah.
May. Most likely theirs is either gonna have to move, but, and you have the March town meetings where their fiscal year begins in January, but they usually pass an article the year before
Yeah.
that says for those 90 days, you can use that money. But right now, it says any fiscal year, once you've started it, you're automatically bound to the previous year's budget, which in ours is only about a 2% difference, so it really doesn't factor in that much.
Okay, as long as we have a plan, that's all I was thinking about.
Mr. Moody?
Tim, when we go over this, sometime prior to, could we have something that's a little more itemized? Let me give you an example,
Capital you talking about?
the whole damn thing. Community programs. Are we staying with the same community programs? Have we added one? Have we lost
We
one?
already had this.
You know what I'm saying?
We've already done
I
that.
thought we already did it.
So I can certainly give you the full item. It's been a while, and February seems like 3 years ago. But we did the itemized look in February.
The advisory board was here?
Yeah.
We had some members, Sally Dwyer, Paul Thornton was here. We all had a good time.
I was not here.
You know.
No, you weren't. You were otherwise occupied.
That seems like a long time ago too.
Well, you're not kidding.
Yeah, you was spread out like a chicken.
I was.
Yeah. Plucked and all.
I was plucked and all.
So anyhow,
Plucked, all right. Here we go. All right, so let's go with May 11th.
Hey, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone.
Never, George. You aren't leaving.
Yeah,
She's gonna bring this to August.
that's what I'm afraid of.
so between now and May 11th, the only thing left to do in the town report is the warrant articles
Yep.
for town meeting. So getting up to May 11th, I will probably be sharing with you some of the warrant articles, so you'll see all of them, not just the dollar ones, but all of the warrant articles. And so sometime between now and May 11th, you will need to vote on the advisory board's recommendation for the non-capital, if you're, whenever you're ready to do that.
You feel like we can do it now?
It's up to the board.
So
They're in
we'd
agreement.
be voting on Article 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14,
Yes.
and that's it, right?
That's it.
Anybody wanna make that a motion? So
Well, before we do that, is this what came out of the February meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
These figures right here?
Yes.
So we're actually reducing our budget by $5,000?
Well,
It was 297 before, now it's 292 now?
so now you're looking at everything with capital. Go up to the, go up to the total budget non-capital.
Oh, municipal up there?
Right. So that's going from
Oh, I see,
2.709
okay.
to 2.763.
Right.
So that's about a 1.8% increase, about $58,000.
Because capital is reduced from before, that's why it went down?
Right. So, and just so you're aware, the reason I separated the non-budget or non-capital from capital is because there's less than a 2% increase in the non-capital. Where it gets tricky in the capital is, while we might be asking for less total dollars, we also have less money to pull from surplus to offset it. Last year, we raised $589,000 in capital, but we spent $400,000 from surplus to bring that down. We do not have that $400,000 this year. That's gonna be a big part of the capital discussion.
Okay, I'll make that motion. And we accept the advisory board's recommendation.
We'll recommend it.
I'll second
The selectmen are recommending yes for Articles 6, 7,
Right.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14.
I'll make that a motion that we recommend
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Put the figure in there.
For,
Well, you got,
what?
you
Can I
got,
make a motion for the total?
The total figure would be 276,384.
I think so.
Yeah, I can reflect in the minutes all the
Okay.
individuals.
Okay. All right, Mr. Elias,
comfortable with it?
Yeah, with that.
given that?
Remember going through the.
2763840.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you didn't want to take a time to scan
2763840.
it.
840,
Okay.
Yep.
right? Yep.
Okay, have a motion. Jack made it a second.
Second.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We've accepted Articles 6 to 14 to town meeting, with Articles 15 to 18 that we talked about on May 11th.
Before we leave.
Well,
I just want to ask the question, is May 11th the day that we're gonna do capital?
We're gonna
That-
try.
that's-
With
we're
the-
planning.
Can we have the department heads
Right.
in this room?
Yes, that's what we're gonna try to move forward. Whether we have to do it in two rooms
Right.
together.
That's a good idea, Dave.
Yeah.
So advisory board can be over there,
Yeah, well, part of them can be
Yeah,
over there, part of
right.
them, we got.
and
split
some
them.
over here, right?
So, Kathy, Tammy, Jeff, are everybody clear on what we did and what we're doing? Okay. Does Bentley have any comments?
Not tonight, not right now, anyways.
He's asleep. You know, there's a lady in my church that listens to my sermons online, and she says it helps her dog sleep at night.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
She said, I listened to your sermon 3 times, so my dog would fall asleep. That's nice. Before we leave the budget, I did want to touch base a little bit on revenues. I did give that to you in your packet. This is a little bit more information than you usually get on revenues, because I wanted everybody to kind of be on the same page. There's the department column. The next column over is the 5-year average. So, for example, BMV, which is vehicle registrations, for the last 5 years, we've averaged about $738,000 in that column. We budgeted this year $725,000. Through the end of March, we've collected $538,000. We should have been around $560,000, $570,000. But for the last 2 weeks of March, we didn't do a whole lot of vehicle registrations, if any. So that's tapering off a little bit. And since vehicle registrations makes up 75% of our revenue forecast, that's an important thing to watch.
Tim, didn't the governor extend vehicle registrations for, like, those that are due this month till the end of May or something like that?
Well, the rule is your registration is extended to a period 30 days after the state of emergency ends. So if the governor ends the state of emergency May 1st, you have until May 31st to register your vehicle.
And that's probably part of the slowdown that you're talking about?
That's probably 99% of it, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, the longer the state of emergency stays in effect, the more at risk we are for losing revenue from vehicle registrations. Either people will stop buying, and one of the things we have to look at is if it extends past June 30th, then any revenue we collect is revenue for the next fiscal year. It doesn't help us with what we've budgeted for. So this item, all these items here go into the budget forecast that the assessors use to set the mill rate. And so if you were to look at the second page, revenue totals of 980,000, I know it's dark. What we budgeted was, we budgeted $980,000 to come in. For this year's budget, I've already ratcheted that back to 950. I might ratchet it back to 900, depending on how we go into the next fiscal year, how much we're gonna rebound with vehicle registrations. The next line down there where it says main revenue sharing, we're on pace. We've taken in about 77% of what we anticipated, but that's gonna drop off the chart for April. There's gonna be very, very little revenue sharing for April.
Well, with all these stores shut down, you get no tax money.
Exactly. The other two, the Betty reimbursement, we've already received in full. Homestead exemption, that's automatic. We'll get the remaining 23% of that. The good thing down at the bottom there is we've received 90% of our real estate taxes and 99% of our personal property taxes.
Wow.
That's highly unusual.
Wow.
I mean, everybody's paid their personal property tax, so that's really good. So as far as cash flow goes, we're not in a bad situation right now. We have the April payment to the school, the May payment, and the June payment. We have enough money in the bank right now without a whole lot of revenues to pay those payments through June. I talked with Tammy, and as we get into the next fiscal year, maybe as we get into June, then we need to really take a close look at our cash flow. So that means for the assessors come August, you're gonna have to weigh how much money is in surplus to carry forward into the budget. The tricky part of that is that, as I think about it, if you're gonna do that, you're gonna need to know that by May 15th, the end of June, because that's gonna have to be an article that you recommend to town meeting. How much money do you wanna carry from surplus? And will that surplus be there when we need it to be? So these are all things that we need to consider over the next couple of months. So you're not alone, every town's in the same boat.
All right, so we'll move on. Number 4, discuss changes to the land use application fee site review.
So as you recall, over the last couple of years at town meeting, we've been taking the fees for certain things out of the ordinance so that the selectmen would have the ability to alter fees as we go through the year. And here's an opportunity, because I've been following the planning board very closely through a lot of site review processes. And we've had 3 solar projects. We've got one at Go Lab. We've got a Timberlands that wants to do one. We've got a couple more coming down the pike. We're going to be busy with these. When Susan was putting together this fee schedule, she was getting feedback from the planning board, and they settled on $100 for a fee to go through site review. Well, we have to post an advertisement in the newspaper for a public hearing, and that costs $163. So we're not even covering the cost of the required posting at that fee of $100. We're also paying for people's time. We're paying for a contracted planner now at $60 an hour to prepare the paperwork for the planning board. So we need to weigh out what we're actually incurring as far as costs with trying to maintain that business-friendly stature. We don't want to go crazy on fees and whatnot. But after watching it, I would recommend that we change the $100 for site plan to $250, because I believe that will more accurately cover the actual costs involved in that. And I would also recommend to do the same thing for subdivision, because that also has those posting requirements. And shoreline zoning application is $50, I think that should be $100. So those are the recommendations that I'm making.
Subdivision application, 250?
Yeah, 250 site plan, 250 and shoreline 100.
Are you recommending keeping the $25 per lot?
Yes.
Okay. Read those down again, 250?
250 for the subdivision, so change from 100 to 250.
Yeah.
Site plan change from 100 to 250. Shoreline zoning change from 50 to 100.
I'll make that motion.
Oh, sorry.
All right, we have a motion and a second to increase the subdivision application to $250 plus $25 per lot. Site plan review to $250 and shoreline zoning application to $100. Any questions? Is that pretty much standard with other towns? I mean,
It's still a little lower than some other towns. So, but it's competitive.
all right, any other questions?
But this will cover, basically cover our expenses.
And that's really what we're looking to do, is
We're
cover
not
our
losing
expenses.
money this
Right.
way.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, seeing no other questions, all those in favor? All in favor, motion carries. Selectmen's concerns, Mr. Moody,
None, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Elias,
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Savage, Mr. Duchamp.
All set.
All right, I have none. Citizens?
That's you three. Any citizens' concerns?
Citizens,
No citizens?
Wow.
All right, look for a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
All right, I got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor at 7:36. Everybody's in favor. Motion carries and we are adjourned.